live with Vicky to talk about all the different topics of transitioning. And every time we're trying to focus on one particular question that you all might have about transitioning. And we've been doing it now for almost a month, so that's great. Yeah, so we will continue doing it as long as people have questions. We'll introduce ourselves and then start with the topic. The topic that we want to talk about is being stuck or feeling stuck and what to do about it. So essentially, when it comes to being stuck, I guess there are three questions that everyone has. One is what it is or how it looks. Two is why we get stuck. And three is what to do about it. So before we dive into that topic, I want us to introduce ourselves. So if you have questions or want to introduce or join our conversation, welcome to do so. And that is working as well. So let's start interacting. So Vicky, why don't you start telling and introducing yourself?
Hi, Asel. It's great to be here again. I really love these Thursday chats with you. So my name is
Yeah.
Vicky Hobinka, or the longer name, the official name is Victoria Hobinkova, and I'm a former humanitarian, always humanitarian in spirit, and I accompany people, mostly humanitarians, on their journeys towards a better work-life balance or life balance, through transitions and career decisions.
Amazing. So, my name is Asawa Monova. I am a coach, life coach, helping transition, helping get you unstuck. So, whatever the issue that you may have with life, so to say, then I'm here to help. And the today's topic, let's dive into the topic. So, let's go around the first question that I think may be very clear for people to understand is what are the situations or how does it look like being stuck? What is your experience, Vicky?
Oh, thank you for the question. I was thinking about it right before we started talking, and I was thinking about what was my experience, right,
Yeah.
about being stuck, because I think this is what people might be able to relate to. And I think there are several ways, several layers at which stuckness can occur. It could be
Mm,
some sort of material, physical, in a sense that you want to reach something, but you're still not there. In my case, for
mm,
example, it was a choice of a career after humanitarian career. I knew I needed to do something else, but I didn't know what it was, and it took me quite a while, a few years of exploring and studying, etc., to figure out what I want to do, what will be transition. But I think
yeah.
also I can imagine, and I also saw and I see it with some of my clients, the stuckness being on different level. Stuckness being, for example, on emotional level or mental level. Emotional
Mm,
level of I constantly have this feeling and I cannot get over this feeling of, for example, either I
yeah.
cannot do it, I'm unable to do it, or maybe fear or doubts that it's so deep they cannot go. It's there really in this feeling of stuckness. And I think mental is also sort of looking at stuff or looking at issues from one perspective, that I am looking at it and I simply cannot, for any, I simply cannot imagine doing this or reaching this objective in any other way. So I would say that's mental stuckness, and I think that's something that happens to us very often. How do you
Yeah.
see Asel?
So I also see it as like a state of mind and emotional state. I think it's probably difficult to distinguish the two, but anyway, so the way that I experience it, something like having this state of being where I don't see other options,
Mm-hmm.
right? So this is how I would describe it. So I am in my own head, obviously. I am having all these emotions of being like, I don't really want this, like it trapping ourselves within ourselves, if it makes sense. So where we are like somehow we know that we're very intelligent, we know that we are very smart, we know that we find answers, we are good at solutions, but somehow when it comes to certain topics, we are so much within our own heads and we don't
Yeah.
really know how to get out of it. And I think that's when we start labeling it as being stuck, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
labeling of this is when I need help, or this is when I do something about it. So the way that I want to interpret for myself, feeling of being stuck or my being stuck really is telling me that I need to do change. This
Yeah.
is the way that I want to interpret it. And of course,
Yeah.
everyone should interpret for themselves what that means. But I think we often interpret being stuck something bad, and we should just get
Mhm.
rid of it and try as soon as possible and all of this stuff. But I think what's important even more to understand what it is really that our feeling or being stuck means for us. So that's where I start the conversation and then go into the conversation with ourselves as to why are we stuck, right? So why are we labeling things as being stuck? And one of the things that you mentioned, the topic of fear, and I think we
Mhm.
want to maybe elaborate more on that. So the way that I would look at it is, if you feel like you want to label your situation as being stuck, then you are experiencing fear. This is how I would like simplify it. If I you know if I were telling everyone what to do with it. So first, I would really like, if we're looking at the why question, is we're really fearful that if we are not stuck, we need to do something about it.
Mhm.
And I think in order to protect uh, us in that situation, our brain cleverly up the story of being stuck so that we don't need to move
Mhm.
forward to do something about it. So that's why whenever I feel stuck, I just recognize that I'm experiencing fear, and that's okay. Right.
Right.
So I don't want to make it mean like something gone wrong, or I'm essentially flawed, or I'm a bad person, or I can never do things or whatever. Like, no drama or Santa Barbara, like we say. No, 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 none of that things. It's just that, okay, I feel stuck because I'm experiencing fear. And that's a very human thing to do, and that's okay, right? So nothing has gone wrong. Um, of course, we will talk about what are the other reasons that might be generating fear, but I think it's important that we just stay in the fear to
Mhm.
recognize that fear. What would you say, Vicky, when it comes to like why people might be in the stuck mode?
I think what you're saying is absolutely resonates a lot, and I think it's really what you're saying is fear of doing the step ahead, because by default we are designed to be
Yeah,
in our comfort zone, because this is where we go to look for safety. This is what we know. This is where we go and come back, because this is the good place. But obviously, no progress, no development, no way forward happens without going out of the comfort zone. And I think it's really natural what you say, that to feel fear or anxiety, there are two coins, or two, somehow I think they're very related feelings of that people have when going to any new situations, or facing any new situations. And it's actually so much more comfortable to stay in this comfort zone
yeah,
rather than do something about it. Either look for a different perspective, or look for somebody to help you, accompany you, listen to you,
yeah,
whatever that is, whatever that you need. Then to it's more difficult to do that than to stay. And this is why I think what you mentioned is very important, to really face it, and also I would say break it down. What is it in me that that I fear, because it's not all of the
Yeah.
world. There is some particular
Yeah.
thing that I fear. So it needs to be
Yeah.
really narrowed down. And then what is it? What is it? What does it mean for me? Or what is it telling me about my needs? And I think that's maybe the next chapter we're going to talk about. What are my needs here?
Yeah.
So that's what I would see it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's also going to the question of what to do about it, right? So we're talking more about that as well. Like, what can you do in case you're experiencing this being stuck or feeling stuck? Is, for me, as I said, feeling the fear and recognizing, acknowledging is very important, because
Yeah.
without doing that, I fear that we won't be allowing ourselves to go
Mm,
further, because the fear is so strong that it won't allow us to go further unless we recognize it. And once we understand that it's okay and normal for any human being to be feeling fear before going to the unknown territory, then I would say we could look at what are the beliefs or thoughts that we're having that are preventing us to
yeah.
get out of feeling stuck. So, for instance, some of the often reasoning that I heard from people is that, oh, I'm too old to be starting something new,
Mhm.
right? Or I already have certain things established, so I don't want to start something again. Or starting something again, meaning losing a lot of things, or um, uh, I don't know, whatever the version of losing things, whatever the version, starting something new that sounds very difficult. So all of those are obviously the reasons why we are fearful, right? So we know that we're fearing. Now is the time when we notice what those reasons are. We want to find out how true they are, really. Because oftentimes we argue that, oh, I have this age or I have this thing and therefore I can't. Like, we already put ourselves into the corner
Yeah.
instead of recognizing that we always have options. And stuck is really, we feel like we don't have options. Not true. We're lying to ourselves when we say that we don't have options. We always have
Yeah.
option, even in dire situations that I have
Yeah.
seen. So creative at finding solution options if you want to, but we need to want that. That's a key. So this is
Yeah.
what I would say
Yeah.
that I would suggest for people to do. What would you say, Vicky?
Yeah, very true. As you were speaking, there was a sentence that came to me that I heard from Tony Robbins, one of his lectures many years ago, and that's the mental stuckness, right? That we talk about. He says, change your story,
Mm,
change your mental story. There is a story in your head that you
yeah,
are sticking with because it's comfortable
exactly.
and probably because it's easy. So, how do we
Yeah,
change the story? What is the story in your head that you're telling yourself? And that's
yeah,
the old story, and to what do you want to put it? And of course it might not always be easy, but that's really, I would say, really the
yeah,
mental stuckness, to change the story in our heads. Because if we wake up and have it on our minds in the
yeah,
morning and we fall asleep in the evening, we keep on reinforcing. So it is a work to do to change the story. And also very important what you were talking about, we always have options. And that's absolutely true. Very often in a sort of very narrow-minded vision, when, as you mentioned, when we have sort of almost a tunnel vision, when we only see, I only have this option, we always have more options. And it's just, and here I would
yeah,
invite people
yeah.
to look at things from different perspectives, and really look at the perspective. Sometimes I actually ask the question, if what is a really, if they have a person that they really deeply admire or have huge respect for, what would that person do in their situation? And immediately they come up with an answer. There is
Mm,
always an answer. So there is always an option, and
yeah,
there limitless options actually, that we with a change of perspective, that we are able to see. And sometimes I encourage even to physically change location, or physically look at things from to achieve a different perspective, because we live also in our bodies and emotions live in our bodies. So sometimes the physical motion also helps us to change perspective, as opposed to, for example, I'm looking through a window, but if you're looking like into the ground and not seeing anything, of course it's not going to give you great perspective. And I would add one more thing here. As you said, there are always options. That yes, there are options and opportunities. Look at the opportunities. What are the opportunities here? And also, what is the learning here for you? Because in every situation, there is a learning, even the difficult ones. How do you see this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think if you or anyone who's trying to get yourself out of stuck at this point as we're speaking to you, right? So let's say that you listen to us and you said, okay, I know now, or I know in my like intelligent brain, I know that there is an option, but now I'm not finding the answer. Let's say that's your situation. I would always encourage you to ask yourself if stuff being was an option. Like, if it was an option, if you could just take it off for now and put it on the table, you can always come back to it. Obviously, stuff never goes away if you don't want it. So imagine that you can just take it off, and then for a moment, imagine what would you be doing, right? So oftentimes people tell when I ask this question, me, if I weren't stuck, I would be working on my dream that I wanted to, right?
Mhm.
Or I would be working on my goal if it wasn't for
Yeah,
stuck. So you can see that stuck is just another way of us trying to block ourselves. I mean, maybe consciously, subconsciously, but we're trying to do that so that maybe we're doing what we really want information to know. And if we know that information, that also means that you already have the answer. You are maybe not one to get the answer, owning the answer, pursuing the answer, because it's scary.
yeah,
And if that's the case, that's okay too. Because we've all been there, you've all been there as well. It's not like the first time you are being scared. I'm sure there are many occasions that you pass through in life being scared, feeling scared, yet you really wanted to grow it. And that's where you brought you here now. And now it might be time to do another one of those jumps. And I mean, Vicky and I know that we can do it because we've done it. We're continuing to do it. I
yeah,
don't know. Like, I get scared so often in my life now that I feel like I need to lose fear anyway.
yeah,
So for
yeah,
me, this is how it is. You can always get yourself out of it if you wanted to. You just need to be willing to do that instead of just keep labeling it and saying, oh, this is how it is. I can't be helped. I don't want to do anything about it, and I'll just ignore it and it will go away. It won't.
yeah, yeah.
Vicky, what do you say?
Yeah, I'm really very intently listening to what you're saying, because it really rings a bell. Ah, I think I lost you. So I will continue speaking, although I don't know how Asel will be coming back here. Um, so I will stop here.
Yes, we're back. Sorry about that.
Yes, sorry
Vicky.
about that. Yes, I found myself so suddenly
Yeah,
alone.
you were gonna say something.
Um, yes,
Yes,
unfortunately,
it's
I
my
lost.
internet, it seems.
Yeah, it's I lost the line of I lost the line of thought about feeling stuck and working through that. But overall, um, I'm in alignment and real agreement with, you know, with the way forward is that you really have to identify, you have to want to do something about it, and you have to go,
Yeah,
I would say, the extra mile to go against this. I would not even say against this feeling, but work with this fear, as you rightly mentioned. Become friends or get acquainted with the fear. What is the fear allowing you to do, or what are you allowing the fear to do with your life? And imagine it wasn't there, or imagine just tuning down, because maybe sometimes it's a bit extreme to say imagine it's not there, or let's work to eliminate it completely. But I would say, what about if we just say, if we just imagine 5% less? What does it allow you to do? What is the opportunity if it's 5% less? What about 10%?
yeah,
What can you do with that space that you gain from having less fear? And I think that these are the crucial moments where people realize that they have actually more power within themselves that they allow themselves to have. Yeah. What do you think?
exactly. I
Yeah.
think the other way that um, maybe to visualize another way would be like, many humanitarians obviously fly a lot, I'm assuming, and we travel because of work and all these things. So many of us probably have this experience of flying, and when you are flying, sometimes there's lots of clouds and about rain and all this um, season, right? All this temperature and all this stuff. And then once you fly through, you realize there is a sun above it. You're like, huh, it's weird. I was just in the, shitty storm, and then I see and go through this, and then there is this freedom, or there is this sun. I don't know. For me, sun is associated with freedom for some reason.
Yeah.
Anyway, so and I want really encourage people to think this in these ways. Like fear is only the down
Yeah.
level, and once you go through that fear, then you will come to the freedom. And that freedom of not being stuck, and the freedom of recognizing or realizing that you have whatever options you want to, but you need to get there. And I feel like in order to get there, we really need to go through this fear. And fear
Yeah.
is a bit like a gate, and the gate needs to open.
Yeah.
And you need to open, have all the tools to open that the way that we suggested, or you can also ask for coaching and then we'll help you get unstuck in that way. But anyway, with all, I think what we are really saying is that you can always find a way to get out of that if you and find out why and what you really want to be doing afterwards. And that's always available to you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's beautifully said, and
I
I love
guess
the
with
metaphor.
that, wrap up the today's session. Yeah, sorry, Vicky. I apologize for this delay as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so you were gonna say?
Sorry, I was just saying that I really love the metaphor because I was actually it's really interesting because I was thinking about the metaphor about the real thing. Even before we started speaking, because very often even in my life when I haven't been on a plane in the last, I think, almost 2 years, or at least 1.5 year, but before, of course, I used to
Mhm.
travel really a lot. And I remember really going with a full head of thoughts and like stresses and all that. And once I was on the plane and I was above the clouds, as you see, as you say,
Yeah.
that everything was gone, and I saw really things
Mm.
in a different perspective, and literally the physical
Yeah.
helped me to really prioritize and put things into order and think clearly. So the visualization that people can do is really very powerful and easy to do and accessible. And you don't always have to book
Yes.
yourself a flight. So I do think it's not only a great metaphor, but really a great visualization exercise as well.
Exactly. And what Vicky, you were saying as well is absolutely, you said that, you just may want to put yourself physically in a different perspective, right? Depending on where you put yourself into, there are different views of it. And I think being stuck and putting yourself out of stuck is really like that. You get yourself out of your state and put yourself in a different place, and then you see a different view. So that's
Yeah.
really how it is. And I hope that we were able to help you get out of your feeling stuck. And if not, you can always reach out to us. And I'm also doing a session on this next week, and we're doing a networking event on being stuck or feeling stuck and what to do about it. So we're really creating a lot of materials for you to think about it and really not use this as an excuse not to transition. So
Yeah.
we hope that you will still consider transitioning, whatever that means for you, so that you can actually live the thriving life you want. So with that, I think it's time to wrap up. Thank you, Vicky, so much for again another wonderful conversation. Sorry about the internet. It's, I think, my internet more than Vicky's, but I hope that we can, we were able to help you us. And if you have any suggestions, you can always reach out, or you can come to the show next time.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Vicky.
Thank you very much. Thank you for invite. It's always a pleasure to have these discussions. And yeah, I invite people who have questions, colleagues who have questions and who are not sure to come. If they don't want to come to a show, maybe they can ask a question, or if they want to participate, you'll be
Yeah.
most welcome. So thank you very much and look forward to speaking to you next week.
Yes. Thank you so much. Have a
Thank you.
beautiful week, everyone. Bye.